So 1/1/25 for the MedMal Treaty Department really came in as expected. We anticipated some of our clients changing direction in the structures that they were buying. And we anticipated that because of meetings that we had 6-8 months leading up to the renewal period. So we're really down premium because select cedents decided to take their retentions up, their appetites increased for their own business, as well as take larger co-participations in the reinsurance layers. And that, as much as we argued against that and tried to convince them otherwise, the surplus levels, unfortunately, or fortunately for them, but the surplus levels at our client companies is astronomical and they can take the risk. So I do anticipate some of those structures coming back in line with probably pre-1/1/25. So looking ahead to 1/1/26, I would anticipate increased ceded premium. So we maintained all of our relationships and maintained our line sizes. In fact, we increased line sizes on 2 of our deals. So I don't expect any real changes other than the dynamic going on in the marketplace to perhaps revert back to maybe a more moderate level of risk-taking at the cedent level. Despite our premium being a bit smaller, 1/1/25 over 1/1/24, we do feel that our book is better positioned. We know that we've de-risked the book a bit by the mere fact that our cedents have taken limits down. While our shares have stayed the same, we know that the books of business are less volatile. So we do feel very comfortable with the portfolio that we have right now. In the medical malpractice portfolio, every deal is different. No 2 companies operate in the same venue. They don't have the same exposures. They don't buy the same reinsurance structures. So our underwriters and actuaries are careful and thoughtful in their underwriting and pricing approach to every single deal. While we've maintained relationships with every client at renewal, their desire to change reinsurance structure has resulted in less ceded premium to the reinsurance market, therefore less ceded premium to TransRe. However, looking at our entire portfolio, we feel very comfortable with the portfolio that we have despite the reduced premium. Even though our current book is smaller than it was this time last year, we feel very comfortable with our portfolio and the volatility within our portfolio, and a lot of that has to do with the limit reduction in the underlying business. Along with maybe 1 or 2 other reinsurers, we are considered a quoting market. We quote deals, we lead deals. We are asked repeatedly to engage in conversations at a higher level at either industry functions, broker events, to talk about the results of the industry, to talk about emerging trends. That reputation has been developed over years and years and years of writing this business and being immersed in it and fully engaged in the line of business. We started a few years ago and really got serious in the last 2 years is the exposure of sexual abuse and molestation. In the industry, it's not typical that anyone insures the offender. That's a criminal act. That person is possibly in jail at this point. It's really the exposure is falling to the entity that employed that person or allowed that person to practice on their premises. And that's the exposure that we're seeing creep its way in or has, and it's cost the industry an astronomical amount of dollars, loss ratio points, and it's an exposure that is not really medical malpractice. It's not an exposure anyone underwrites to, can underwrite to. So how we've chosen to tackle that is to put a ring fence around it, put a cap in any treaty that has that exposure, and we underwrite each and every treaty individually based on their portfolio. I'm comfortable to say that our portfolio has a cap on that exposure. Another exposure that is creeping its way into the medical malpractice portfolios is auto, which is surprising because we don't really think about auto when you think about a hospital professional liability policy, but those policies are issued as umbrellas and they're typically over the professional liability, the general liability, the auto. But the auto now, I don't think that bad driving, distracted driving, all of the things that are contributing to the auto industry performance, those don't change where you work. So you may have someone who works at a healthcare entity driving their own car or driving an owned car of the entity, and there's a bad accident with bad damages, and now you have an employer that has a large tower of limit available. So we're seeing that happen in our space. Underwrite, quantify the exposure and think about capping the limits available to that exposure within a tall tower of limit.